Welcome to the PTA Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, John Caliger. I'm accompanied by my co-host, Nick Killing. How you doing today?
Great, fantastic,
I, I,
great
am-
day.
I am. It's great to see your beautiful face, Nick, especially since we're in the midst of fall now. I'm sad that summer has ended. The shore, the shore's quiet. I love the summer. It's my favorite season. What's your favorite season, Nick?
It depends where you live. Now, Houston, winter,
Interesting. Oh yes,
because it's summertime. It is hot.
because I went to go see you in the spring in April, and that was that was muggy even then.
Yeah, it's still hot.
Yep.
So the winter time is going to be the best time in Houston. Be able to hang out outside, just do regular, normal stuff outside without sweating through your shirts every single time you go outside.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but if I'm in Minnesota, where I was raised and from, then definitely the summertime or the fall. The fall is very beautiful.
I do not like the fall or the spring.
Spring's all wet. And yeah. Summer or fall for me.
I would say the spring is my least favorite season by far, especially because we're both Midwest cats. I hail from Wheaton, Illinois. You hail from more Minnesota, only about 8 hours drive. I made that drive once. I went to go visit Nick up in Minnesota in the winter. Oh my God, was it cold? When I went to go drive home the next day, I was wearing winter boots, a winter coat, full pants, gloves, and a hat. And it was so cold. I drove to the gas station down the street from your house, left the car running with the heat blasting, and I just walked around because get like scraping all the snow and the ice off the car. It was brutally cold.
Yeah.
Brutally cold.
Oh, yeah. We had a pretty mild winter last year, though. You should have came up for that. Wasn't that bad. But the winter you came,
Oh my God.
that was a cold one.
That was a tough winter for sure. And it kind of brings us into the clip because we're both Midwestern cats by trade. Shout out Minnesota, shout out Illinois. I'm not really a big fan of Illinois, but hence why I'm on the shore. But let's roll into this clip and kind of talk about, is the Midwest back or did it ever leave?
Interesting. What we've started to see in the data is some of these forgotten Midwest markets, some of the old Rust Belt, they're actually picking up a bit in terms of activity. And we're seeing some signs that there's life. And it goes back to that affordability. As some of these pandemic darling hot markets, the rent to income ratios have leapt from 20 to 25, 26, even 28, getting close to that HUD defined 30% rent burden threshold. Some of these other markets that had been forgotten for a while by investors, you're starting to see some demand come back to them. And I think there's going to be opportunities there over the next 5-10 years. Interesting.
I just want to say first, that guy really annoyed me. I hate when these people from the West Coast and the East Coast grandstand on their high horse and say, it's so much more affordable. The Rust Belt, is it coming back? No. The Midwest is the backbone of America. You East Coast buttholes think that we're just a flyover state. No. The Midwest is back. It never left. Yes, it'll be affordable, yada, yada, yada. But no. The Midwest is a solid market. It's a great place to live. It has beautiful, wonderful people filled with tremendous culture. And just because all you rich East Coast a-holes thinking that you're better just because the Plymouth Mayflower landed here, no, it never left. The Midwest is here to stay.
I 100% agree. I know my family's kind of looking at trailer parks and stuff like that and rebuilding them. Maybe putting some wonderful family dwellings on them, replacing the trailer parks. And the market is strong. They're seeing some pretty good return on their investments. A lot of work, though. From my anecdotal experience from looking up there, when you see, okay, we invest this much money in, we buy the property at this amount, labor and all that stuff, we're going to have a good return on investment, but it's going to be a big job and it's going to take a lot of capital. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. A lot of capital and a lot of time, a lot of knowledge that goes into that market up there. But seeing a lot better return on our investments than what I've been seeing, at least down in Houston, within the outer loops or just 30 minutes from the outer loop in Houston. I've seen the kind of the investment market's a little bit stronger, a little bit weaker than I've seen in some areas in Minnesota.
What I'm seeing too, especially with, I'm going to say established and new markets. And what I mean by established markets, I mean the Midwest of, i.e., the Indianas, the Chicagos, the Minnesotas, all those markets where people have been there for a longer period of time, and those houses and infrastructure is significantly older, as opposed to Florida, Texas, Arizona, where they've seen all this giant boom, all these exploding markets. Yeah, you definitely have newer inventory, and which I think leads to the long-term, you're not going to be able to add as much value to it because it's a brand new home. The value's there. It's either does the cash flow now, or you just got to wait to find the right deal, as opposed to all these established markets in the Midwest where, hell, we went to Iraq. You know what I'm saying? We did not invest in infrastructure. We invested in the global war on terrorism. You win some, you lose some. So that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of those established markets, you're going to have a lot of capital to kind of rebuild and update it, because I saw from because I had to redo my entire house I bought in Chicago. It's less than 1,000 square feet, but the entire house had to be redone. And I think that's kind of common. I definitely see it on the East Coast a lot too. Like if you're looking to buy a home in my neck of the woods, it's either brand new construction or you have to do basically a whole remodel, a gut. And I don't think you run into that in the Florida, the Arizonas, and the Texas as much, because you saw a giant influx of people trying to get there. And I know you know us from our service. I know like 3 or 4 people who moved to Texas or to Arizona to build homes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I don't know anyone who moved from our time who moved to New Jersey to build a home.
No,
I do not know anyone. I've not come across in my travels anyone who moved out east or west to build a home.
Yeah, and talking about the Houston market and new construction, there's new construction in the inner loop of Houston, which is close to your downtown, the kind of where everyone wants to kind of be when they want to live in a city in Houston, is within the inner loop. There's new construction happening in there. Multi-million-dollar houses being built right now. If you have the money and you want to buy there, you can buy new construction there. Now, in a lot of cities, that just doesn't happen.
No,
it's just so dense. Just people can't really afford that to buy to tear down and rebuild. And then in Houston market too, obviously we bought a 70s house. It was kind of move-in ready. There's a lot of investors trying to flip houses, and that's a huge market.
Because you bought your house that you bought in Houston was built in 1970. What is your thought process? Because the house I own in Wheaton, Illinois, that house was built in the 40s, and when I go buy my second property, I think 1970 is the cutoff of how old of a house I want to buy next, just for upkeep and all that stuff. Is that kind of where your head's at, or what was your thought process going through that decision?
I guess I don't necessarily look at, hey, what year. I look at, okay, with 70, what are some problems? Okay, I know at 70's house there's going to be a lot of galvanized steel pipes. Okay, let's get an inspection. Let's know, hey, what am I looking at? I'm looking at bad windows in a 70's house, really. Bad
hair. That's the call sign of the 70s, but at least you could smoke inside.
Yep. The smoke all around. Yeah, I'm looking for that. I'm looking for cracks in the drywall, bad foundation problems, especially being in Houston or any wet kind of market. Or really any 70s house. Yeah, foundation.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we saw this house, all right, 70s, looking for pipes. I think there's some galvanized pipes in the attic, but the rest got redone into your PEX piping. So it's all modern. Foundation. Okay, not the best foundation. Didn't really do a good job of flattening the surface. There's a little low points. We identified that. We were okay with still buying it. But the foundation itself, they did a lot of repairs throughout the house. So, okay, foundation could be better. 70's house, they did invest a lot of money in that.
And plus, 70s it's a 50-year-old house.
Yeah, Yeah, you're gonna have some problems.
Yeah.
If I was flipping it or if I was buying a house to live in it, I would have done a little bit more with leveling out the top of the foundation. But he was looking at his return, not necessarily livability. But I would have liked it if he did that because we do have some low points. But whatever.
It's nice if you want a little bit above and beyond, but hey, beggars can't be choosers.
Exactly.
Not beggars, but first-time home buyers. That's your first home.
Yeah, exactly.
Be there
And
forever.
if we have to redo it, it's going to be a headache, but whatever.
What isn't a headache for us?
Exactly. And then we looked at the windows.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not going to be standard size windows. A flipper is not. Sometimes is not going to spend a boatload of money on custom windows. He did. These are all new windows in our house. A lot of some of these houses you'll see like just the plastic stuff. It's not even like single plane. Yeah, we have single plane throughout the house. People aren't going to do custom double plane. That's just unaffordable.
Yeah.
For especially if you're looking at your return on a flip house. But a lot of these houses built in the 70s, I mean, they're just dusting it off, and literally like not even single plane windows, just a piece of plastic there, and trying to get away with that. Yeah,
that's one thing about the Houston market. You just can't get away with that here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that just irks me. I know we went down the gutter rat, but how can you consider yourself a business operator if you put in plastic as a window? That's just not how things are done in America.
Yeah.
Breaks my heart. It truly breaks my heart that people are doing that to each other in America.
Yeah.
That's like
well,
that is the third.
It's also, so part of it is you got to think. Okay, so the government puts building codes for windows. It needs to be, all windows need to be double plane or at least, standard windows, to be able to sell it or get a permit or get the certificate of occupancy if you're pulling permits and rebuilding something. In Houston, I don't believe a window thing is that common, but maybe in North Carolina, to be able to get that certificate of occupancy, you might need double plane windows. Like I don't know the building code, but in Houston, I don't know. Do they need to update the code to enforce that, or is that just going to cause housing to be more expensive? And for someone that doesn't want to buy that house, could afford it if it was a little bit cheaper stuff in the house, but since now the building code has been updated to more expensive materials, the price of the house might have to go up, and now they can't afford that. So
Yes,
I mean,
I agree with you that more government regulation always increases two things: the cost of it, and it increases cost and decreases quality.
Yeah.
That is anytime a large corporation, like a large entity that is run centrally. So like if you got, say, like with the NFL, how they're doing they're letting all the financial experts, private equity buy teams now. What do they really know about business or streamline? They just really know how to streamline things and then just take as much money out of it as possible and run it into the ground, kind of like what they did to America and the middle class. So I completely agree with you, Nick. The more government regulation is, the worse things get. I'm just more annoyed that the builders are not putting gutters on roofs and just putting plastic for windows. That is what annoys me. That's like that instead of finding ways to work around the government and lie, cheat, steal, win, like Americans used to know how to do, we're just screwing over we're just screwing over the customer, which I've kind of found that is the new normal, not just with I'm a house flipper, but just with American corporations and from business to the consumer. What I'm kind of noticing is that they're more concerned about their DEI score or whatever loan rate they can get as opposed to what the customer thinks. That is not PNC Bank, though. PNC Bank can be annoying sometimes with how much they care about what the customer thinks. But I kind of get the sense that the customer's opinion is less valuable than it used to be.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. And in real estate in a lot of markets, I mean, I see this happen all the time. There's a few houses that I looked at built in the 70s. I was looking to buy and really see what I can do with it. And the house it was a flip, and it was flipped horribly. It's still on the market. The one that I looked, one of them that I looked at, still in the market. The owner is refusing to take any lower offers. And one of them that I was trying to, buy and maybe invest in, rent in, reflip it a little bit nicer, but it needed to be, lowered $50,000, $60,000. It actually just sold, and the owner had to lower it $40,000. And it was only $120,000 house, so it sold for less than $100,000.
Wow.
And then I was looking over the public records, and he bought it at auction for, I think this house was $110,000. So I mean, he put in a lot of money in it. No, he put in, it was a poor job, but he put money into it to do a poor job, and he wasn't able to sell it, and he took a huge loss. So
and
when people try to screw over people, a lot of times they end up screwing over themselves.
Yes, and I think
and I see it happening all the time.
A great antidote, Nick, because I think what a lot of social media real estate people, they always talk about, oh, it's so easy, cash flow. I make $10,000 a month. How do you get to 10 properties to retire? That's kind of the internet myth behind real estate, but which is very often mentioned. I'm very happy you brought that up, Nick. That's a great point, that real estate is a zero-sum investment. You can very easily lose your shirt and all your money in real estate if you're doing things the wrong way.
And I see it all the time.
Yeah. If you're being boisterous and only care and trying to nickel and dime people, you can lose your shirt.
Mm-hmm. Especially, this is a different conversation, hiring subcontractors, nickel and diming them. They're going to give you bad service. And then if you want them to come back, like, hey, this isn't done exactly what I was kind of expecting, they might charge you again. And I don't know, if you didn't nickel and dime them and they want you to come back, all right, they're going to come back. They're going to probably fix that, try to provide you good customer service. They want your business again. But if you nickel and dime them, I'm like, screw you, man. I barely made a profit off of you. I'm going to charge you again. It's going to end up costing you more in the long run. And then if it breaks or anything, and you try to call them, you just have a bad relationship with them. You have to move on to someone new, and you never build that relationship with someone and consistently give them work, so then you can get maybe a cheaper discount from them kind of organically through business, other than, hey, I'm just going to call this guy and be a dick to him and try to nickel and dime him. No, that's not how you do it.
No, Nick, that's a great place to wrap up. That's a great advice. Remember, people, follow the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated, and you will make in this game. God bless, and thank you guys so much for listening.